Welcome back to Team Talks. For only the fourth time in history has a defending Premier League champion lost 4 Premier League matches in a row. We're going to hear now from Arne Slot, who's enduring the worst run of his managerial career so far. But the Liverpool head coach believes his players have what it takes to turn things around.
Yeah, the thing that gives me the most confidence is the quality of the players we are having. So, the amount of chances these players are still creating. So this will eventually always lead to these players scoring more goals than we've done till now. And we have to address certain other things. But yeah, if I talk about that, if I'm speaking about what we have to improve, people then tell me I'm using excuses. So maybe it's better now just to say we need to address certain things.
Yeah, Arne Slot there saying, maybe he doesn't want to keep talking about the reasons why they've lost, because it ranged from everything to the way the opponents were playing against them. Difficult period for him, probably the most difficult of his managerial career. It's a full-blown crisis now.
Yeah, it's getting there. To be the champions, and he must, like last season, he must have thought, what's all the fuss about the Premier League, toughest league in the world? It's easy. He's come in there, wiped everyone aside, they won enough games, they lifted the trophy, everyone was happy, they spent an absolute fortune in the summer market. Yes, they didn't get the defender what they needed, Mark Gay, so they lacked cover there. But they went and got the Isaks, the Ekatikes, Wirtz, top draw players across Europe, and Ekatike is the only one at the moment, all right, mitigating circumstances regarding Alexander Isak because of the injuries. But it's just not settled. They really haven't. And no one's listening to excuses because you can't give any excuses, really. You shouldn't give excuses. It's just not been good enough. I just think you're big players. And whenever we highlight and we show some roles of Liverpool, we always show 2 players, 2 of the massive big players, Virgil van Dijk and Mo Salah. Now, we show them for a reason because they are the leaders. They are the 2 best players. Now, it's time, guys, for you to stand up, for everyone else in that dressing room to look. When you're having a bad time, even if you've been successful, you look and you say, where's the leader? You look at your manager, you see how he's coping with it. I'm not sure you're too enamelled when he's coming out in press conference saying we can't deal with the long balls. Teams sit on a low block, the long throws. He's almost telling the opposition how to play against us. But I think it's time for them 2 guys on the pitch, Mo Salah and Virgil van Dijk, to stand up and lead the rest of them. They're capable of doing it. They've done it before, and I think they will do it again. There's no doubt in my mind it will click sooner rather than later, and they're capable of going 15 games without getting beat. I'm sure of that. If you ask Mikel Arteta at the moment, who are the favourites to go and win it, and Pep Guardiola, they'll be looking over his shoulder, looking for a red shirt. In Liverpool, it'll be the time. They'll be the team. They'll be the team who will come with a run. You cannot win the title now in October, November, but you can certainly lose it. You'll be too far behind, and they're going that way at the moment. They need a result for their life at the moment.
Yeah, I think, when we just had in the bottom left of the screen there, the bigger picture, which is 6 defeats in the last 7. And what was scary was them losing to Crystal Palace in midweek as well, and the way in which they lost. And Arne Slot talking about lacking depth and not having enough depth. He made 10 changes to that side, 6 teenagers starting in that game, featuring in that game. Just tell me about the team that he put out.
I have to say I have zero concerns about that team. And I think if you look at their fixture list, you understand why. An in-form Aston Villa side in this game week, they are the most informed side at the moment. 4 wins in the Premier League in a row. No team has that many. And Real Madrid, red-hot Real Madrid, next week with Trent Alexander-Arnold coming back to town. It would be insane for Liverpool to play a strong side when you have 2 tough games coming up. You want to be able to keep petrol in the tank and your options open, not just physically, but mentally as well. You started off this chat by talking about Slot and the fact that he didn't want to talk too much about the reasons. And I understand why, because in PR terms, anything he says is used as an excuse against him. And in many respects, he can't win. So I think he's got really good advice in that regard. I do think when you talk about the bigger picture, people suddenly forget all about what happened in the summer with Diogo Jota. I remember doing an interview with an ex-Arsenal player, Bakary Sagna, when he said he'd lost his brother. When he lost his brother, he thought he could continue playing. And the simple things, the basic things, he couldn't do them. And it was only when a psychologist took him to one side and said to him, I can't see it. You're not. There's nothing there. But he realised he had to take some time away. And for all of the support we gave as a footballing community, as Planet, to Liverpool, I feel as though it's gone out the window and everyone's just judging them on football. But the players that were there, they had to stop and actually prioritise their own emotional well-being and the support of Jota's family. The players that arrived, as Tim will tell you, good players going into a side that is thriving will fly. Players who go into sides that are not doing very well, that aren't at it, they're going to struggle. Add to that the fact that Isak went on strike to force a move to Liverpool. That's a problem. Add to that fact that even if you are playing for Bournemouth, like Kirkesh was, and then you make the step up to a superpower like Liverpool, it's a big step. Regardless of your playing in world football, Liverpool are a superpower. So there are a combination of things. There is no single answer as to why they're struggling. But I just think that to criticise a guy who dealt with Trent, who dealt with Van Dijk, who dealt with Salah last season, who dealt with coming into a new league and adapting to a club that had a national treasure, even though he was German, in Jurgen Klopp, and managing to make such a success of it, and then to turn around and say, oh, I don't know about him anymore. Crazy.
Yeah, very well said, actually, Darren, because people forget that grief isn't linear, and they look at the first 5 games of the season and say, they won the 5 then. But I think everyone agreed that Liverpool were not at their sparkling best even then. I want to bring it back around to Tim and just go back through the 10 changes he made in midweek, because I think you have an experience somehow in your managerial past where you've had to make a decision with, a League Cup in midweek or a cup game in midweek. And
yeah, a little bit different. I was at Aston Villa at the time, and the priority always was just to stay in the league. And it shows you how far Villa have come. And I needed the confidence, so I needed the result. If that someone was actually speaking to me on them terms, on football terms, it's a rivalry which is very strong. It is the biggest rivalry in the Midlands. I could not play a group of kids against Birmingham at home at Villa Park, and it would have just bred negativity and more negativity around the club. So I made a conscious decision, no, we're going to play, we're going to win the game, and we're going to springboard from there. And I just think a win's a win. I disagree slightly. I don't think he should play his full strength side, but I think he could have played a team capable of beating Crystal Palace without playing, your full strength, rest certain players, but be a little bit more competitive than that. Because as soon as them team sheets come in, I could tell you who's going to win that football match. And I looked at that. They just they could not compete with that Palace side, and Palace are going well at the moment, and they're very good away from home, and they're a good cup side. They won the FA Cup last year, and they're going to go really deep into this competition as well.
Right, let's start then by talking about those comments in his news conference earlier. Is he fair to talk about the injuries, or do you kind of look at it and say, with the amount of money you spent over the summer, that shouldn't be a problem, whatever happens?
I think you're always going to get people that are going to question that just purely on the numbers that they've spent and also the amount of players that they brought in. But I can actually see where he's coming from when you're talking about players that maybe can't play 3 games in a week, or they're not up to speed to do that, and you'll have the fitness people in the background or the medical department
saying, like,
in your ear saying that he's maybe on amber this week or whatever, and it could be at risk if you then want to play him. So I think it's fair for people to maybe criticise a little bit those comments when you have brought in the amount of players, but you have to understand that's a manager that's trying to not just build and win right now, even though they are at that place at the moment, but he is trying to protect players, and he's going to want his players available for the rest of the seasons, and only people that are behind the closed doors there will know what's going on from a physical aspect.
Mark, when you look at the stats, I mean, it doesn't make for good reading, does it? 6 defeats in 7 in all competitions, 4 on the spin in the Premier League. The fact that they've fallen 7 points behind the leaders Arsenal now. Jamie Carragher is calling it a crisis. It feels like it's spiralling a little bit. What's your assessment of what's happening at Liverpool?
I think it's so early to label it a crisis, I'll be honest with you. I don't think it is that yet. I think there's certainly conversations that probably need to take place in-house. There's meetings, players and management meetings. Where is it going wrong? What is the big difference between last year and this year? But I agree with what Jody says in terms of these players that have come in. The there's probably a lot of pressure on them as well to go and perform, because there's so many coming at once.
And price tag, right?
Price tag is huge. And I think Liverpool have probably in the past had a name for going a bit under the radar with their business that they do in transfer windows, whereas this has been so well documented, especially the Isak transfer and the Wirtz transfer. These have been all over. It's been a massive saga for so many months. So probably taking some adjustments.
And I mean, you know better than anyone what it's like to sort of reach the top of the mountain. I know it's completely different when you won the title with Leicester in the most sort of improbable of Premier League title wins. But how hard is it to go again?
It is difficult, I'll be honest with you, and like you say, you're
different
right to allude
situations,
to it being different. I think from my point of view, when we did win it at Leicester, there was an excitement the next season, mainly about the Champions League, because so many of us hadn't played Champions League football, and we'd had a bit of a disrupted pre-season in terms of we got entered into something called the Champions Cup, and we're used to playing, sort of going to Austria and playing a League 2 Austrian side, and so all of a sudden we're playing Barcelona. A
little bit different.
Yeah, it's totally different. But as well, like there is similarities in terms of a disrupted pre-season. Slot spoke then about obviously the transfers disrupting it, and then obviously the tragic events surrounding Diogo Jota as well. And players that were close to him will grieve at different times, and it will take its toll at different times. So that's something I think we've got to bear in mind as well.
Yeah, I think
Liverpool's next Premier League clash with Aston Villa is more than just another fixture. It's a test of pride, pressure, and psychology. After losing 4 straight league games, the once dominant Reds find themselves in crisis mode. Confidence has dipped, defensive lapses are piling up, and fans are beginning to question whether Arne Slot can steady the ship. History, however, leans Liverpool's way. They've dominated Villa in recent meetings, and if the match is at Anfield, their famous home atmosphere could reignite their fighting spirit. Yet, Aston Villa arrive full of belief. Unai Emery's men have strung together an impressive winning run, playing fearless, fast-paced football that punishes mistakes. Exactly what Liverpool have been making lately. This matchup will be decided by mentality as much as tactics. Liverpool must rediscover their rhythm and defensive discipline, while Villa will look to exploit every sign of doubt. Expect intensity, goals, and high drama, because for Liverpool, this game isn't just about 3 points. It's about stopping the bleeding and proving they still belong among England's elite.